Before the universe knew conflict, there was only harmony. But what happens when perfection cracks? Stay with me, because we're diving into the untold story of heaven's greatest rebellion, one that shaped the fate of creation itself. If you've ever wondered how pride can spark a cosmic war, this is for you. And don't just watch, share your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because we're only scratching the surface of this timeless tale. Let's get started. Before the first whisper of dissonance entered its halls, heaven existed in a state of unbroken harmony. The light of the Almighty shimmered like 1,000 prisms, illuminating terraces of translucent stone, silken rivers of glowing essence, and endless choirs whose voices blended into a single current of praise. In this realm of purest peace, the angels were formed, countless beings of radiant spirit, each bearing a unique reflection of divine glory. Among these celestial hosts, some soared gracefully over glassy seas of light. Others guarded the sacred halls where God's presence shone most brightly, and many attended to cosmic tasks beyond mortal comprehension. In this timeless serenity, two angels stood foremost in grace and prominence, Michael and Lucifer. They were archangels, beings of towering splendor and purpose, each entrusted with crucial roles in heaven's unfolding tapestry. Lucifer shone with breathtaking brilliance, inspiring awe and wonder in all who beheld him. Michael, ever vigilant, stood as a protector and guardian, his loyalty unwavering, his faith unshakable. In these ancient days, there was no thought of conflict. Songs of endless praise flowed like rivers, and all angels delighted in serving the Creator. Michael and Lucifer were not just allies. They were brothers in purpose, united under God's love. The stars themselves seemed to sing their names in harmony. Yet, even in this domain of perfection, a seed of pride began to stir. Hidden deep within Lucifer's core, it was subtle and quiet, a faint tremor in the foundations of heaven's peace. None could guess how this spark would soon ignite a cosmic struggle. As the eternal light shimmered softly, a new chapter approached. The stage was set for a drama that would forever change the fabric of heaven and the fate of countless souls. In the early eons, Lucifer's role was one of sublime artistry and wisdom. He guided the harmonies of angelic choirs, ensuring each note reflected divine intent. He refined the radiance of the stars, aligning constellations to mirror eternal truths. His presence brought delight and learning. Newly formed angels would marvel at his knowledge, absorbing his words with reverent awe. Michael, meanwhile, oversaw the guardians of heaven's boundaries. He made certain no chaos would intrude upon this sanctum of grace. Ever alert, he was like a shield raised to protect the holy presence. Although there was no danger to fend off then, the simple act of vigilance pleased the Almighty. It was a testament to faithful service, a reflection of unwavering devotion. The two archangels respected each other, but their roles differed. Lucifer's domain was beauty, light, and thought. Michael's was duty, strength, and resolve. They complemented one another as two facets of heaven's perfection. Yet even as angels danced in spirals of joy and heavenly wisdom poured forth like living streams, Lucifer's admiration of his own brilliance began to grow. He heard the praises of lesser angels and lingered upon them, while before he had directed all credit to the Creator. Now he allowed a subtle satisfaction in himself. This shift was tiny, almost imperceptible. If the halls of heaven had contained shadows, it would be as if a feather of darkness flickered behind Lucifer's eyes. Still, nothing seemed amiss. Lucifer continued his duties flawlessly. He adorned the cosmic tapestry with vibrant strands of starry brilliance, his words still aligned with divine truth. Yet inside, a question began to form. Could he not stand above the others, perhaps even close to God's own throne? In heaven's timeless expanse, no secret could remain forever hidden. Yet pride is clever, disguising itself as excellence and zeal. Lucifer began engaging more deeply with the angels under his guidance, subtly highlighting his own role in their enlightenment. He asked rhetorical questions. Is it not wondrous how perfectly these notes fit together? Or, observe how beautifully I have aligned this constellation. Although still praising God, he allowed lingering hints that he himself was indispensable. Such nuances were mild. Yet for beings accustomed to absolute purity, they rang with a faint, discordant tone. Among the countless angels, some noticed this shift and grew uneasy. They whispered their concerns quietly, uncertain how to interpret this new edge in Lucifer's voice. Others were enthralled by his radiance, too enchanted to doubt him. They reasoned that Lucifer, favored and brilliant, must be reflecting God's own splendor. Who would question the highest angel of light? Michael observed from a distance, monitoring subtle changes as one might track new patterns in distant galaxies. He did not immediately confront Lucifer. There was no direct wrongdoing. Instead, he focused on reaffirming heaven's truths. He reminded the hosts that all glory ultimately returned to the Creator. He spoke often of humility and purpose, ensuring no angel forget why they existed. Meanwhile, Lucifer delved deeper into his own reflections. He wondered, why should perfection not ascend? If God was infinite, why shouldn't Lucifer draw closer, climb higher? Gradually, the idea of equality with the divine took root. He told himself it was a noble aspiration, that desiring to be like God was merely wanting to reflect the source more perfectly. But beneath that facade, a dangerous pride coiled, ready to strike. Soon, these thoughts would no longer remain unspoken. As Lucifer's inner dialogue grew louder, he began to test the waters with subtle implications. He approached angels individually, weaving gentle suggestions into conversation. He posed questions that made them ponder the nature of their own servitude. Are we not made in God's image? He'd ask. If so, might we not aspire to become more than mere servants? Some angels shied away from such talk, uncomfortable with its implications, but others felt strangely awakened, as though Lucifer was offering them a secret path to greater purpose. Not all who heard these words embraced them. Many were unsettled, quietly seeking Michael's presence for reassurance. Michael listened carefully, never dismissing their concerns. He advised them to remain steadfast, to trust the Creator's design. He reminded them that each angel had unique gifts, and that serving the divine will brought fulfillment beyond measure. Still, Michael sensed a change in the currents of heaven. Something was moving beneath the surface, and it bore Lucifer's signature. In a private moment, Michael tried to reach Lucifer's heart. He approached the archangel as a brother, commending his gifts but gently emphasizing humility. We each reflect a fragment of God's glory, Michael said softly, but none of us can equal the source. Lucifer smiled but deflected the advice, praising Michael's loyalty while insisting he saw no harm in pondering growth and potential. Michael left the conversation more uneasy than before. Rumors began to spread quietly. Some angels murmured that Lucifer, who once sang God's praises so purely, now composed secret songs in private halls. Others claimed he questioned the order of heaven itself. Yet no open rebellion had erupted. The harmony of heaven still played, albeit with a subtle discordant note that only the most attentive could discern. In the vast gallery of heaven's knowledge, Michael spent hours reflecting on subtle changes. He watched small clusters of angels grow secretive, huddling in quiet corners, their conversations halting at his approach. He saw the once effortless unity of choir voices falter ever so slightly. He sensed a tension he could not yet name. Michael considered confronting Lucifer openly, but he remembered how gentle persuasion often worked better among their kind. Still, each passing moment brought a mounting sense that time was running short. Lucifer's behavior did not recede. It intensified. He became more eloquent, weaving intricate arguments that called upon ancient truths. He spoke of destiny, of potential, hinting that angels might rise beyond their current station. He was careful never to insult the divine directly. Instead, he cast doubt on the necessity of absolute obedience. Some angels found themselves strangely drawn to his words, seduced by the idea that they were meant for more than passive adoration. On a quiet terrace lit by gentle halos of warm light, Michael finally decided to seek God's guidance directly. Although God's presence filled heaven, the Almighty's voice often manifested in subtle whispers rather than direct commands. Michael prayed silently, asking for insight. In that silence, Michael received no thunderous pronouncement, only a subtle confirmation that his role as protector would soon be tested. He rose from prayer resolved. He would remain unwavering, guarding heaven's truth even if it meant great strife. Lucifer, meanwhile, was gathering a following. He did not simply want admirers, he needed allies. Carefully, he chose angels who felt restless or overshadowed, appealing to their hidden insecurities. Step by step, Lucifer assembled a network of supporters. Soon, the rebellion would no longer be an idea but a tangible force poised to fracture eternal peace. The moment came when Lucifer could no longer hide his ambition. It began with a quiet gathering in a grand hall, known for its perfect acoustics and shimmering floors. He called a meeting, inviting angels who had shown interest in his ideas. They congregated in silence, curious and fearful, unsure what Lucifer would propose. Standing before them, Lucifer revealed his grand vision. He spoke of elevating themselves, shaping a new order within heaven. Why, he asked, should we remain forever in passive worship, never aspiring to greater roles? Are we not children of the divine, capable of more? He described a future where angels would govern themselves, where their collective wisdom would guide creation. He hinted that the supreme throne could be approached, perhaps even shared. There was an electric tension in the room, a dangerous thrill. Some angels recoiled in horror. Others felt their hearts stir with daring thoughts they never knew they harbored. When Lucifer finished, there was a long silence. Then, one by one, angels began to pledge support. It started quietly, with a few bold spirits stepping forward. But soon a significant faction stood with Lucifer. A dividing line had been drawn. Those who still revered the established order fled the hall, fearful and anguished. They rushed to inform Michael and other loyal archangels, tears of confusion in their eyes. Thus, the rebellion was no longer hidden. It stood openly in heaven's midst, a dark blemish upon perfection. Lucifer's following was substantial, perhaps a third of all angels. Though none could count precisely, the news spread swiftly. Heaven's serenity trembled. Some angels wept at the discord. Others steeled themselves for the conflict to come. In that hour, Michael realized the time for gentle persuasion had ended. A final confrontation was now inevitable. Heaven itself felt the shock of what had occurred, though no mortal eyes could see it. The very fabric of that realm quivered as if struck by a distant thunder. In the wake of Lucifer's bold declaration, confusion spread through countless angelic courts. Groups of angels formed, each trying to understand the gravity of these events. Why would Lucifer defy the divine order? In halls of pearl and silver, angels gathered in whispered circles, their once joyous faces drawn and solemn. Some recalled Lucifer's kindness and beauty, struggling to reconcile these memories with rebellion. Others felt betrayed, like children discovering a beloved elder's hidden malice. A few grew angry, their radiant faces darkening with righteous indignation. Michael emerged from a tall colonnade onto a broad balcony where several anxious angels awaited him. His presence was steady as a pillar of light amid swirling uncertainty. He spoke gently, "Do not fear. The eternal truth stands firm. God's will prevails, and we must hold fast to it." His voice carried calm authority. At that moment, angels who were unsure found new courage. They drew close to Michael, looking for guidance and strength. But it was not enough simply to reassure. Lucifer's faction was organized, planning how they might wrest heaven's order from its foundations. They spread their arguments like subtle poison, enticing more angels to question their place. Some who were previously loyal now wavered, troubled by what seemed like grand possibilities. Amid this swirl of confusion, Michael knew that a confrontation must come. Diplomacy would fail against such entrenched pride. Heaven's guardian forces must prepare. He called upon angelic captains, assigning them to strategic points. Though heaven had never known warfare, sorrow weighed on Michael's spirit. What did it mean to marshal armies in a realm created for eternal peace? Summoning angelic leaders from across heaven, Michael convened a council to plan their response. They gathered in a quiet courtyard where luminescent vines twined around marble pillars, and the sound of gently moving waters provided a soothing backdrop. Captains of angelic orders, choir leaders, watchers of distant celestial borders, all answered Michael's call. They formed a circle of radiant faces, each pair of eyes reflecting stars unknown to mortal skies. Michael addressed them solemnly. We stand on the brink of something never conceived. Lucifer's pride threatens to tear apart the very order that sustains us. We must stand firm, protect heaven's harmony, and uphold the divine will. His words resonated, but the weight of this unfamiliar duty was heavy. Many angels had never considered raising a hand in conflict, much less forming battle lines. Yet now, Michael asked them to prepare for war, an unthinkable act in heaven's pristine domain. To ease their distress, he emphasized their purpose, not to destroy, but to defend truth. We must be resolute, he said, in love and fidelity. Our stance is just, and God's presence shall empower us. Under Michael's direction, the angels organized into wings and formations that mirrored cosmic patterns. Each order had a role. Some would guard the sanctum of God's immediate presence. Others would secure key hallways and passages, while swift messengers would maintain communication. They trained their minds to stand firm. For battles here would not be fought with crude weapons, but with might of spirit, luminosity, and faith. As these preparations continued, Lucifer's faction also gathered strength. In hidden halls, they honed their rebellious resolve, refining arguments and rallying courage. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shatter the innocence of heaven, forever changing how angels understood themselves and their Creator's plan. Lucifer's whispers had become proclamations. He and his closest lieutenants moved through hidden corridors, rallying angels to their cause. They promised liberation from what they described as a static hierarchy. They painted Michael's loyalists as fearful traditionalists, clinging blindly to rules. More angels wavered, tempted by the vision of becoming something greater, their hearts struck by the allure of pride. Among the loyalists, Michael's words spread like balm. He reminded them of the divine love that formed heaven, a love that needed no improvement. We are not lesser for serving, he said in private addresses. Our service is part of the divine symphony. Each note has meaning. To disrupt this harmony is to embrace chaos. As tensions rose, heaven's atmosphere grew peculiar. The once seamless glow now carried a subtle undertone, like a distant chord out of tune. Angels encountered each other in hallways and recognized uncertainty in each other's eyes. Friendships formed over eons now stood on a knife's edge. Who would remain true? Who would fall to Lucifer's rhetoric? Michael spent countless moments in prayer and reflection, seeking confirmation from the divine. In that stillness, he felt a gentle reassurance that truth would endure. Although the path ahead led through conflict, a concept unimaginable until now, God's purpose would not be thwarted. Strengthened, Michael renewed his resolve. Meanwhile, Lucifer prepared openly for confrontation. He appointed generals from his ranks, instructing them to seize strategic halls once the conflict began. They mapped out heaven's grand spires and radiant courtyards, identifying where loyalists might be most vulnerable. Their weapons were forged not of metal, but from twisted aspects of will and spiritual force. The rebellion was taking shape. Soon, the first clash in heaven's timeless history would unfold, changing the destiny of all created spirits. When the first open confrontation flared, it came as a sudden, startling event. A group of Lucifer's followers attempted to seize a grand hallway known as the Path of Resonance, where angelic choirs regularly gathered to sing praises. Loyal guardians stood in their way, confronting them with firm resolve. Words were exchanged, pleas, warnings, and finally, declarations of defiance. No physical blows were struck yet, but spiritual energies rippled through the air, electric and tense. Within moments, both sides surged. Lucifer's rebels tried to push forward, radiating a dark, shimmering aura that distorted heaven's natural harmonies. The loyalists responded, shining brighter, their very presence invoking the divine essence. There was a sudden clash, not of swords, but of wills made manifest. The hallway trembled as if caught in a silent storm. Across heaven's expanse, Similar skirmishes erupted. Some angels, horrified by the outbreak, fled deeper into sanctuaries, seeking refuge and guidance. Others stood their ground, determined to defend the order they cherished. Michael, receiving urgent messages, swiftly directed reinforcements to key locations. Heaven's beauty became a stage for conflict unlike any known before. The shimmering arches, the cascading fountains of light, even the peaceful courtyards where angels once conversed freely, now they were battlegrounds. The choirs fell silent as their members took sides, their harmonious songs replaced by anxious murmurs. In this initial struggle, Michael did not rush headlong into battle. He remained at the heart of loyalist defenses, coordinating strategies, ensuring every angel under his command understood their purpose and drew strength from their faith. He knew this was only the beginning, a testing of resolve. Lucifer's plan would soon become more direct and forceful. The fate of heaven hung in a delicate balance as the rebellion's first sparks began to flame. Lucifer's cunning went beyond mere confrontation. He understood that to fracture heaven's harmony, he must shake its foundations. He dispatched secret envoys to seek out angels who had not yet chosen sides, whispering promises that this conflict would usher in a new era of enlightenment. While loyalists fought to maintain what was, Lucifer painted a seductive picture of what could be. Some angels succumbed. The uncertainty was overwhelming. They had never known conflict or doubt, and Lucifer's words seemed to offer freedom from the fear now gripping them. Others, though troubled, refused to abandon the Creator's design. They would stand with Michael and trust in God's wisdom. As the struggle intensified, Lucifer's lieutenants attempted to gain control over gateways leading to heaven's inner sanctums. Their aim was to confront Michael's forces at critical points, fracturing their coherence. They sought to isolate Michael, believing that without his guiding presence, the loyalists would falter. Michael, for his part, learned quickly. He adapted heaven's peaceful guardians into a cohesive defense, positioning them strategically. His calm instructions and the unwavering faith he inspired allowed the loyalists to respond swiftly. When Lucifer's rebels moved to capture a vital corridor, they found loyal angels already fortified, shining with resolute light, prepared to meet them. Amid these tactical maneuvers, angels on both sides discovered capacities they did not know they possessed. They wielded the power of their devotion or ambition like weapons. Flashes of pure radiance clashed with shimmering distortions of pride. Still, no angel truly understood what they were doing. The concept of winning or losing a war was alien to them. Yet, here they stood, wings folded as shields, voices raised as if swords, engaged in a conflict that would redefine their very existence. Michael's patience and faith steadied the loyalists. He reminded them that their cause was not about dominance but fidelity. They did not fight to conquer, they fought to preserve. Their strength flowed from unity with divine will. As skirmishes spread, Michael ensured his angels rotated positions, maintaining their spiritual vigor. He instructed them to focus on prayer, drawing strength from their connection to God. In contrast, Lucifer's rebels relied heavily on their own pride and cunning. They argued their cause, insisting they fought for progress. Yet, without a true source of divine nourishment, their power waxed and waned unpredictably. They discovered that deceiving others required constant effort, draining their radiance. While Lucifer remained a potent force, his followers struggled to match Michael's disciplined formations. Seeking a decisive blow, Lucifer devised a plan to corner Michael's guard near the sea of translucent glass, a vast expanse reflecting heaven's infinite brilliance. If he could break through there, he might penetrate deeper, reaching halls close to God's immediate presence. His lieutenants gathered, plotting intricately timed assaults, whispering treacheries into each other's ears. They resolved to strike swiftly. Michael received intel from watchful angels. Though heaven had never known espionage, loyalists adapted quickly. Messengers slipped through side passages, reporting Lucifer's maneuvers. Michael calmly reorganized his forces. He placed strong defenders at the sea's perimeter, ensuring that any attempted breakthrough would meet a united front. All across heaven, angels grieved. Once harmonious companions now met as foes. Even Lucifer's rebels felt a strange ache, remembering what was lost. Yet, entangled in the web of pride and ambition, they pressed on, believing their cause righteous. The battle lines were drawn. Heaven's once unbreakable unity now shredded. Michael stood unwavering, prepared to face whatever Lucifer would unleash. Within the tumult, the hearts of individual angels weighed heavily. Among the loyalists were some who had called Lucifer friend. Among the rebels, angels who once learned singing harmonies from Michael. These personal bonds now tore at their spirits. When battle lines converged, many angels hesitated, tears of incandescent light trembling at the corners of their ethereal eyes. An angel named Suriel, who once admired Lucifer's brilliance, now defended a corridor against former mentors. Another named Ithuriel, previously trained under Michael's patient guidance, stood uncertain, torn between old loyalties and the allure of Lucifer's new vision. Heaven's war was not only a clash of ideals, but a tragedy of broken relationships. Michael recognized this pain. He urged compassion among his ranks. "We fight for truth," he said quietly to a group of anxious angels before sending them to reinforce a flank. "But remember, those we face are still our kin. Let astray, resist hatred, stand firm in love." Even now, his words inspired a bittersweet courage. Lucifer's camp was less gentle. Some rebels, feeling doubt gnaw at their hearts, confessed their uncertainty to their leaders. They were met with scorn or cunning reassurance. Lucifer repeated that they were destined for greatness. That hesitation was weakness. He promised that when they prevailed, all would understand the necessity of their rebellion. As lines of angels confronted each other, the conflicts extended beyond mere spiritual clashes. They represented a division in the very understanding of purpose. Could the Creator's perfect plan be improved? Or was it blasphemy to consider such a thing? Each encounter was laden with meaning. Each collision of luminous wings and energies a question posed to heaven. Would perfect order hold? Or would pride unmake the most splendid creation ever conceived? As the conflict wore on, Michael felt the emotional toll. He recalled times when he and Lucifer debated nuances of divine artistry, striving to understand the Creator's infinite designs. They had once been close, complements in thought and purpose. Now, Michael faced the stark reality that Lucifer had chosen a path that led away from that unity. In quiet moments between directives, Michael allowed himself a sliver of mourning. He understood that Lucifer's choice was irreversible. Pride had grown into rebellion. The trust they once shared was shattered. Still, Michael resolved not to succumb to bitterness. His duty was to protect heaven's order, not to hate his former brother. A desperate plea reached Michael's ears one day when a wounded angel, struck by rebellious force, cried out for help. Michael rushed to their aid, channeling divine strength into healing light. He comforted the fallen angel, reminding them of God's enduring love. Even in this dark hour, this tenderness contrasted sharply with the severity of the war. Meanwhile, Lucifer hardened his heart. Where once he had admired Michael's steadfastness, now he saw it as obstinacy. Instead of reconsidering his path, Lucifer cast Michael as an antagonist who refused to embrace progress. To Lucifer and his followers, Michael represented stagnation. They told themselves that removing him was a necessary step toward liberation. Thus, the stage was set for greater confrontations. The armies aligned under two archangels who embodied opposite principles: Lucifer's pride and self-determination against Michael's humility and fidelity. Heaven, once so tranquil and uniform, had become a mosaic of clashing philosophies. The angels could sense a culminating struggle approaching, a decisive battle that would determine the very future of existence. All eyes turned to Michael and Lucifer, knowing their showdown would shape eternity. Pause for a moment and imagine this. What if you were an angel in heaven, watching Lucifer question everything you believed in? Would you follow him? Or would you stand firm like Michael? Drop your choice in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take. The first grand clash occurred in the Horizon Gallery, a vast hall where the floor seemed to merge with distant nebulae. This place once celebrated the wonders of creation through quiet contemplation. Now it would host a decisive confrontation. Michael led a contingent of loyalists there, anticipating a major push by Lucifer's forces. As the rebels arrived, Lucifer's generals soared into the gallery. Their presence distorted the ambient light, creating swirling patterns of shadow and brightness. Loyalist angels formed ranks behind Michael. Their wings spread wide, radiating calm determination. They had trained themselves to channel divine energy through their voices and gestures, creating spiritual barriers and beams of pure light. Lucifer's followers attacked first, projecting illusions of grandeur and freedom. Some loyalists faltered momentarily, unsettled by these visions. Michael countered by singing a clear note of truth, a single tone that cut through deception. His allies rallied, their hearts anchored in unwavering faith. What followed was a struggle of essence rather than matter. Angels engaged in a dance of brilliance and distortion, their wings sweeping arcs of luminous trails. Instead of swords, they clashed with convictions made manifest. Loyalists wielded virtues like courage and humility. Rebels struck with pride and cunning. The horizon gallery shimmered with impossible colors, each collision producing waves of prismatic energy. In the end, loyalists held their ground, pushing Lucifer's generals back. Though no one truly died in this spiritual realm, defeated rebels fell away, drained and diminished. The loyalists, too, were weary, but their faith had not wavered. The gallery stood intact, a testament to the resilience of divine order. This first major victory buoyed Michael's forces. They saw that Lucifer's rebellion could be resisted. Yet, everyone sensed this was merely a beginning. Greater trials lay ahead. In the wake of the Horizon Gallery confrontation, Michael recognized the necessity of deeper strategy. The Loyalists learned that while their faith was strong, Lucifer's cunning could exploit weaknesses. Michael convened a smaller, trusted circle of advisors, beings known for discernment and insight, to refine their approach. Together, they considered how best to counter Lucifer's shifting tactics. They devised a plan centered on reinforcing key spiritual truths. Certain angels would sing particular hymns at strategic intervals, ensuring the very fabric of heaven resonated with divine will. Others would patrol critical junctions, not just physically, but spiritually, sensing subtle changes in the balance of faith. Meanwhile, Lucifer brooded. His initial gambit had been repelled, and this stung his pride. He demanded more from his followers, insisting that their resolve must harden. Some rebels, weary and uncertain, grumbled quietly, but Lucifer's force of personality kept them in line. He promised that soon, they would deliver a blow so decisive that Michael's defenses would crumble. While both sides prepared, the atmosphere in heaven became charged. The soft gleam of pearly arches no longer felt entirely safe. Angels moving through corridors did so with vigilance, senses tuned for signs of ambush. Choirs still tried to sing, but their melodies were tinged with yearning and sorrow. In these tense pauses between battles, Michael continued to pray. He asked the Almighty for guidance, and in that stillness, he perceived a message of endurance. Truth would prevail if the Loyalists remained steadfast. Armed with this reassurance, Michael encouraged his angels. He reminded them that they did not fight alone. God's love suffused every mote of heaven's essence, even as war threatened to tear it apart. Thus, both armies braced themselves, gathering strength for the next storm of conflict. Lucifer's words echoed through his camps. If Michael stands between us and our ascension, then we must bring him down. This command reverberated among rebellious angels, stirring a new fervor. They planned to isolate Michael, forcing a confrontation he could not escape. If they could break the pillar of loyalist resolve, the rest would crumble. To achieve this, Lucifer orchestrated a series of feints, drawing loyalist forces into distant corridors and side chambers. He hoped that Michael, always concerned for his angels' well-being, would spread his forces thin and expose himself. Simultaneously, Lucifer's most trusted lieutenants prepared an ambush near a region called the Vales of Amberlight, a tranquil haven that had never known strife. Michael sensed danger. His bond with the divine gave him subtle warnings, and the reports from scouts were troubling. Rebel tactics seemed too scattered, as if designed to mislead. Michael grew certain that Lucifer wanted a direct confrontation. He He did not fear facing Lucifer, but he feared the cost, the potential suffering of innocence caught in the crossfire. Still, duty required him to stand firm. He reinforced key positions, making sure no vulnerable groups were left undefended. He also positioned himself near the veils of amber light. If Lucifer sought him out, Michael would be ready. To his loyal angels, Michael spoke words of encouragement. Our strength lies not in trickery, but in truth. Let Lucifer come. We will remain steady. As tensions mounted, heaven's beauty remained heartbreakingly perfect. The veils of amber light shimmered softly, gentle breezes carrying distant echoes of old, peaceful hymns. This peaceful backdrop would soon witness a clash between former friends, between two mighty archangels whose paths had diverged irreversibly. Every angel, loyal or rebel, held their breath for what was to come. Lucifer approached the veils of amber light with measured arrogance, flanked by a cadre of his strongest lieutenants. He expected Michael to be there, and he was not disappointed. From a distance, Lucifer could see the guardian archangel, his form steady, wings folded, a resolute presence amid the glowing curtains. Drawing closer, Lucifer raised his voice. "Michael," he called, "brother, why must we cling to old ways? Look around you. Heaven trembles, but from its ashes, a new order may rise. Join me, and we shall shape perfection." His words were persuasive, heavy with the memory of their former camaraderie. Michael stepped forward, his eyes filled with sorrow and conviction. "Lucifer," he replied evenly, "you claim to forge greatness from rebellion, but you cannot improve perfection by tearing it apart. Your ambition blinds you. I cannot follow where you lead." A hush settled. Behind Lucifer, his lieutenants tensed, expecting conflict. Behind Michael, loyal angels watched, hearts pounding. Here were two giants of spirit, once unified, now irreconcilably opposed. Each measured the other, weighing not only strength but the depth of their convictions. Lucifer pressed on. "Would you remain forever kneeling, never daring to rise higher?" He tried to bait Michael with shame, suggesting that Michael lacked courage. But Michael's resolve was unshakable. "I kneel not out of weakness, but reverence," he replied. "I stand firm, not because I lack ambition, but because I understand the true source of glory. It is not ours to seize." In that quiet confrontation, both sides braced for what felt inevitable. Lucifer's wings flared with dark iridescence. Michael's aura brightened with divine clarity. They would clash, not as bickering equals, but as embodiments of conflicting principles. All heaven held its breath, as two destinies poised to collide. The tension broke like a thunderbolt. Lucifer, unable to sway Michael, unleashed a blast of twisted spiritual force. It struck with the fury of pride unleashed, rippling the amber veils into distorted patterns of light. Michael stood his ground, countering with a surge of divine energy, a radiant shield that absorbed Lucifer's assault and refracted it harmlessly away. The two archangels advanced upon each other. Their conflict was without parallel, the very air trembling as their auras collided. Michael called upon truth, humility, and faith, weaving them into a protective mantle. Lucifer wielded his pride and ambition like a sharpened blade, slashing at the chords of cosmic harmony. They circled each other in a cosmic dance, wings sweeping arcs of shimmering color. Each exchange of power created cascading waves of brilliance, dazzling and terrible. Below, angels watched in awe and dread, struggling to keep their footing in the fluctuating spiritual currents. Lucifer attempted cunning feints, illusions of divine sanction, false images of God's approval, but Michael's clarity pierced these deceptions. He recognized Lucifer's illusions for what they were, hollow echoes of truth. Undaunted, Lucifer pressed harder, determined to break Michael's resolve. Yet Michael remained steady, drawing on his deep connection to the divine. He allowed the essence of God's love to guide him. Each time Lucifer attacked, Michael countered with a balanced, measured response. He used Lucifer's own momentum against him, exhausting the rebel's fury. As the battle raged, the veils of amber light shuddered. No permanent harm came to them, but their gentle perfection was disrupted by whirling energies. The conflict represented the heart of the rebellion: pride versus fidelity, deception against truth. It was a confrontation that would determine not only the fate of heaven, but the destiny of all creation. As Michael and Lucifer clashed, the forces supporting each grew restless. Lucifer's followers, seeing their leader engaged in furious combat, rushed to his aid. Loyal angels hurried to defend Michael, forming protective formations at the edges of the veils. The scene became a layered conflict. At the center, two archangels waging a spiritual duel. At the perimeter, legions vying for advantage. Lucifer, frustrated by Michael's resilience, attempted a devastating gambit. He drew in cosmic energies, shaping them into a spear of pure pride. Hurling it toward Michael, he intended to shatter the archangel's defenses. But at that moment, something remarkable happened. A whisper of divine presence, subtle but undeniable, guided Michael's hand. He raised his arm and intercepted Lucifer's spear, not by force, but by transforming its impact into a cleansing wave of light. The spear dissipated, its dark energies unraveled by the purity of truth. The rebels faltered, stunned that their leaders could be so deftly neutralized. Loyalists cheered softly, encouraged by the undeniable evidence that they were not alone. God's hand, invisible yet present, supported Michael's righteous cause. It was a turning point. Lucifer's fury grew, but his confidence wavered. He realized that no matter how hard he strove, he could not usurp the divine order. Michael stood as a living testament to heaven's true nature: unyielding love, unwavering faith. The veils of amber light began to regain their natural serenity. While the struggle continued, a subtle harmony reasserted itself. Lucifer sensed this shift and understood that his moment of glory was slipping away. Yet he refused to concede. Pride demanded he fight on, even as the odds mounted against him. In that twilight of possibility, heaven watched breathlessly, aware that resolution approached. Lucifer's fury knew no bounds. His pride would not allow him to retreat. As his followers struggled, he launched into a barrage of assaults, pushing the limits of his power. But each attempt met Michael's steady, measured resistance. Exhaustion began to creep into Lucifer's essence, while Michael remained grounded, drawing strength from divine truth. Seeing Lucifer's plight, some rebels hesitated. They realized that if Lucifer could not overcome Michael here, perhaps their cause was doomed. Quiet doubts multiplied. Lucifer sensed this waning support, and in desperation, he tried a new tactic. He turned his rhetoric into venom. He accused Michael of cowardice, of hiding behind divine favor, of stifling the growth of all angels. Michael stood firm, undeterred. He responded calmly, "Your words cannot shake the truth. The Creator's love is not a chain. It is our source of freedom. You fail to see that greatness lies in serving others, not elevating yourself." These words resonated through the battlefield. Some rebels paused, remembering older, purer times before pride took hold. The loyalists pressed their advantage gently but firmly. This was no moment for vengeance. They aimed to restore order, to guide lost brethren back if possible. Cornered and enraged, Lucifer made one final push. He gathered all remaining energy, seeking to unleash a cataclysmic force. Yet, at the critical moment, Michael's faith shone brightest. He channeled divine power, not as an attack, but as a shield of truth and compassion. Lucifer's grand assault fragmented against that barrier of unwavering fidelity. With that failure, something fundamental broke inside Lucifer's rebellion. The dark archangel realized he could not triumph. Heaven's foundations were too strong, anchored in eternal love. Defeat loomed, and the once bright morning star began to fall. With Lucifer's final assault repelled, the tide of the rebellion turned conclusively. His followers, seeing their leader falter, lost heart. Many began to withdraw, their convictions shaken. Others, still defiant, tried to regroup, but the loyalists pressed gently forward, not to annihilate but to restore order. Lucifer staggered, his once glorious aura dimmed by his failures. He looked upon Michael and for a moment seemed to remember their bond. A flash of regret crossed Lucifer's face, but pride snuffed it out. He refused to kneel. Though he knew he could not win, a decree resonated through heaven, a soundless voice carrying God's judgment. It was gentle but firm, final yet not cruel. Lucifer and those who clung to his cause had broken harmony and could no longer remain within heaven's purity. A force beyond words gathered them, lifting them away from the veils of amber light, away from the halls and galleries, carrying them to the boundary of heaven's domain. Michael watched with mixed emotions, sorrow for what had been lost, relief that heaven's core would remain intact, and an abiding trust in the divine will. The loyal angels stood by him, breathing out long-held tension. The rebellion had been costly, but truth had prevailed. As Lucifer and his defeated host were cast out, their once luminous forms twisted in the great descent. No longer would they shine with heavenly radiance. They fell through a vast gulf, a new realm forming beneath them. The rebellious angels, now demons by their own choice, would wander a place bereft of heaven's pure light. Heaven itself trembled only once more as they departed, then began to heal. Choirs that had fallen silent found their voices again, tentative at first, then stronger. The great schism had ended, but its implications would echo through eternity. In the aftermath, heaven was quiet, as though catching its breath. The wounds of rebellion were subtle but present. Some pillars once glowing steadily now flickered softly, requiring renewed devotion to restore their fullness. Angels gathered in small groups, comforting each other, sharing tears that glowed like dew. Michael stood near a reflective pool of light. He gazed into its depths, seeing echoes of what had transpired. He saw Lucifer's brilliant face as it once was, noble, curious, and full of promise. He also saw the twisted pride that led to ruin. The contrast weighed heavily on him. Yet, even in this sorrow, hope emerged. Loyal angels approached Michael, thanking him for his unwavering leadership. They praised not only his strength but his compassion. Michael replied with humility, "The victory belongs to truth, to the Creator's design. I only did my duty." Slowly, life in heaven began to return to a gentle rhythm. The choirs tested their voices, singing soft hymns of healing and gratitude. The luminous structures brightened as angels prayed and served with renewed sincerity. The shadows of rebellion receded, leaving a deeper understanding in their wake. A great compassion filled heaven. The angels learned that even in perfection, freedom allowed for the possibility of error. They understood more deeply why they must remain ever vigilant, nurturing humility and reverence. They also realized that their bond with the divine was not fragile, but strong enough to withstand even the fiercest challenge. Michael, reflecting on these truths, found within himself a greater sense of purpose. He knew that his role as protector and guardian would continue, and that this victory had forged a new strength within the hosts of heaven. Though the memory of rebellion would never fade, neither would the lessons it had imparted. In the days that followed, a gentle hush lay over heaven as the angels meditated on what had transpired. Some who had been swayed by Lucifer's words but never openly rebelled came forward to confess their doubts. Michael and other leaders listened patiently, offering forgiveness and guidance. No angel was cast out for mere uncertainty. Rather, they were embraced and encouraged to deepen their understanding. God's presence, always imminent, seemed to resonate more fully now. The angels felt a renewed closeness, as if the trials they had endured opened their hearts wider to divine grace. They realized that God had known all along what would happen. The rebellion had not taken the Creator by surprise, nor had the outcome been in doubt. Yet free will had been honored, and from that freedom, truth had emerged stronger. Some angels asked why God had not simply prevented Lucifer's fall. Why allow such pain? Michael answered gently, "The Creator desires love freely chosen, not forced compliance. Without freedom, our devotion would be hollow." Lucifer's choice brought suffering, but it also deepened our understanding of loyalty, humility, and faith. Heaven's architecture absorbed this lesson, glowing with a renewed richness. Where once perfection was taken for granted, now it was appreciated in its delicate balance. The angels saw their service not as duty alone, but as a joyful response to divine love. Every note sung in the choirs, every task performed, now carried greater meaning. Though grief lingered, it did not overshadow hope. The angels trusted that God's plan, incomprehensible in its entirety, guided them. They could move forward with confidence, knowing that even rebellion and fall could not break the Creator's design. Instead, it refined their understanding and deepened their harmony. As heaven healed, Michael took time to reflect on his own growth. Before the rebellion, he had been a faithful guardian, devoted and strong. Now, he had learned deeper patience, empathy, and resilience. He understood the complexity of free will, how love must be chosen, and how truth might be tested. He considered how the rebellion had forged new roles. Some angels discovered strengths they never knew they had: courage in adversity, wisdom amid confusion, mercy in judgment. Others grew closer to God, finding in the Almighty's subtle guidance a source of endless renewal. Heaven's architecture responded to these shifts. New corridors opened, radiant gardens blossomed, reflecting the angels' expanded understanding. Walls that once merely shimmered now displayed intricate patterns, symbolizing faith tested and truth confirmed. Angels wandered these halls, contemplating the layers of meaning they contained. In a quiet chamber, Michael knelt in prayer. He thanked God for the strength and clarity granted him. He asked for continued guidance, knowing that the victory over Lucifer was not the end of challenges. While heaven was secure, the fallen angels now resided in another realm, the earthly realm, where their influence would plague humanity in ages to come. Yes, the rebellion's legacy would extend beyond heaven's borders. Humans, created in God's image, would face temptations engineered by Lucifer's malice. Michael understood that his role as protector now encompassed more than just heaven. He would watch over human souls as well, guiding and defending them against the deceptions of the fallen. This expanded mission did not frighten him. It gave him purpose. With the memory of rebellion still fresh, Michael knew he could draw on the lessons learned. Faith, humility, and love would remain his greatest weapons. Thus prepared, he rose, resolved to serve both heaven and earth in the name of truth. In the following cycles of heavenly existence, the angels embraced their restored harmony. Choirs resumed their singing, now richer and more layered, as if the pain endured had given them a deeper emotional resonance. Architects of heaven shaped new structures symbolizing resilience and renewal. Gardeners coaxed forth blossoms that whispered sacred truths in their gentle rustle. Michael guided efforts to fortify heaven's spiritual integrity. Not that another rebellion was expected, but wisdom counseled vigilance. The angels learned from past wounds, ensuring lines of communication remained open, that doubts could be aired without shame and resolved with compassionate guidance. No angel would be left isolated, nursing secret pride. Meanwhile, whispers from distant realms spoke of human creation. God had formed beings in the divine image, gifted with free will. Michael understood that these new creatures would face their own struggles, tempted by Lucifer's spiteful whisperings. The angelic hosts prepared themselves to watch over Earth's unfolding drama. Though forbidden to interfere directly beyond certain bounds, Michael and other angels would provide subtle guidance, whispers of conscience, strokes of inspiration, gentle nudges toward goodness. The lessons learned from rebellion would serve them well in understanding how fragile free will can be. They would strive to protect humans from deceit, encourage them to grow in virtue, and remind them that divine love was always near. As heaven's scars healed into wisdom, the angels felt a profound gratitude. The rebellion, painful and destructive, had also been a moment of revelation. It showed the power of choice, the importance of humility, and the unshakable nature of truth. Now heaven stood not only as a realm of perfection, but as a testament to tested faith. Michael looked upon his fellow angels with gentle pride. They were stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than ever before. Even as heaven's peace was restored, Michael felt a subtle pull towards earth. He knew that humanity, fragile and full of potential, would need guidance. Their world would be different, shaped by time, space, and physical matter. Unlike angels, humans would struggle with ignorance, fear, and temptation. Lucifer and his fallen host, now known as demons, would seek to twist their hearts away from truth. Michael accepted this responsibility with quiet determination. Though he could not manifest openly as he could in heaven, he would watch over humanity, responding to God's will. He would send messengers, angels appearing in dreams or subtle signs, to encourage faith and moral courage. He would guard chosen souls who sought truth, ensure that goodness had champions on earth. In this new role, Michael realized he was not merely a protector of heaven's order, but also a guardian of the connection between the divine and mortal hearts. Where Lucifer sought to sever that bond through temptation and lies, Michael would help strengthen it. He would inspire prophets, bolster saints, and shield the vulnerable. This new chapter required adaptability. Humans were not angels. Their struggles were different. They experienced life in cycles of birth and death, growth and decay. They learned slowly, often through pain. Yet Michael felt a compassion rising within him. Born of his experiences during the rebellion, he understood how vital free will was, how it must be nurtured with patience and love. And so, as heaven's lullabies continued and new gardens bloomed, Michael extended his vigilance beyond the eternal realm. He became a bridge, ensuring that truth and grace could reach hearts that knew neither heaven's perfection nor the clarity of its light. This mission gave him purpose and meaning beyond what he had ever known. Over the ages, as humanity flourished and struggled, Michael and the angels quietly performed their sacred duties. They guided lost travelers with gentle whispers, comforted grieving hearts, and shielded innocence from unseen harm. They never forced goodness, for free will was precious. Instead, they offered hope and perspective, reminding souls that they were not alone. Lucifer, now known as Satan, prowled the earth's spiritual environs, seeking to ensnare souls through cunning lies. But Michael and the loyal angels stood ready, countering darkness with subtle beams of truth. Every prayer lifted, every act of kindness performed, resonated in heaven, fueling the angels' resolve. In these ceaseless efforts, Michael found fulfillment. The rebellion had taught him that truth, though challenged, endures. Now he saw that truth took root in human hearts, growing despite adversity. Some humans became beacons of virtue, saints whose faith lit up the darkness and made Lucifer's chains weak. Michael marveled at God's plan. The angels had been created in perfection, yet the humans, flawed and mortal, could achieve heroic virtue. This fascinated Michael, inspiring him to serve even more earnestly. He realized that defending heaven had prepared him to understand and cherish the struggle of human souls. Heaven rejoiced each time a human chose love over hate, humility over pride. The angels sang softly, harmonizing with the prayers of humanity, weaving a tapestry of interlinked destinies. Michael understood now that the rebellion's scars were not merely wounds. They were lessons enabling him to value freedom and growth. As centuries passed on Earth, Michael's vigilance did not wane. He stood sentinel over countless generations, quietly influencing events through grace and inspiration. The story that began with Lucifer's pride now continued in humanity's longing, each soul a chapter in the grand narrative of creation. On Earth, countless dramas unfolded. Kingdoms rose and fell. Wars raged among nations. Love and hatred, wisdom and folly intertwined in the human story. Through it all, Lucifer's influence bred cruelty, despair, and doubt. Yet, Michael and his fellow angels inspired hope, courage, and redemption. Though unseen, Michael's presence was constant, in the quiet stillness of a child's prayer, in the moral courage of one who resists temptation, in the sacrificial love that heals wounds. Michael's subtle handiwork could be discerned. His fight against Lucifer continued on this new front, more subtle but no less significant. Heaven watched, encouraging humanity through signs and wonders, quiet revelations, and the teaching of prophets and holy ones. Michael knew that humans, though vulnerable, possessed a spark of the divine that even Lucifer could not extinguish. They could choose the good, learn from mistakes, and grow in sanctity. This ongoing struggle for the human soul was the war's new dimension, a spiritual battle, unseen by mortal eyes, raged behind the scenes. Angels guarded children sleeping in darkness, strengthened saints whispering the name of the divine, and consoled those on the brink of despair. Michael's memory of Lucifer's rebellion guided him. He understood pride's destructive power and the need for humility. He recognized that faith, freely chosen, was worth more than forced obedience. Humanity's journey was a testament to this truth. Each soul that chose goodness affirmed God's wisdom in granting free will. Over time, the angels and humans formed an unspoken partnership. While angels guarded and guided, humans learned, loved, and worshipped, forging paths of holiness through their struggles. The legacy of rebellion was thus transformed into a lesson in grace, ensuring that even darkness served a higher purpose in the tapestry of creation. In the vast expanse of eternity, the outcome is certain: good will ultimately triumph. Heaven, once shaken by rebellion, stands firm, anchored in the eternal truth of divine love. Lucifer's fall is a memory etched in heaven's consciousness, reminding all that pride leads to ruin. Michael's story does not end. He continues to serve, guarding the line between heaven and earth, nurturing souls toward the light. His heart brims with empathy and understanding. He respects human freedom, knowing that true love cannot be coerced. He embodies the principle that faith's greatest glory lies in being tested, refined, and chosen willingly. Across the cosmos, angels sing. Their voices, tested by conflict, carry nuanced undertones of wisdom. The splendor of heaven grows richer, layered with the depth of lessons learned. Should any being question God's plan, they need only recall the rebellion, the fall, and the ultimate victory of humility and truth. Humanity, for its part, journeys onward through history, facing trials and discovering virtues within themselves. Guided subtly by Michael and his brethren, they forge a destiny entwined with divine purpose. And at the end of all ages, when the fullness of God's design is revealed, the tapestry of creation will show that every struggle, every choice, contributed to a grand harmony beyond imagination. In that final consummation, Lucifer's rebellion, which once threatened heaven's perfection, will stand as a testament to freedom and redemption. Michael will stand by the Creator's throne, not as a mere servant, but as a witness to the resilience of truth. Together with all who have chosen the good, he will celebrate the eternal triumph of love over pride, unity over division, and the everlasting victory of God's wondrous plan. And there you have it, the rise and fall of heaven's most radiant star. But the story doesn't end here. What lessons do we take from this celestial drama? Tell me your insights in the comments. If this story made you reflect or gave you chills, smash that like button and share it with someone who loves a good cosmic saga. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next chapter in our exploration of ancient tales and their modern-day wisdom. Until next time, keep searching for the light in every story.